I love talking about my financial mistakes because I want you to know if you've made a financial mistake, you're not alone. There's no one that hasn't made mistakes. So I feel like the more we talk about things that we wish we would have done differently or done better, the easier it is to brainstorm ways to get over these types of things and to get over your mistakes. Because in the moment, it can feel so paralyzing when you've made a mistake or done something that you wish you hadn't, or you wish you'd done something better. But getting over that mistake is sort of the best chance you have that it's possible to get over that mistake. So I have 4 of my biggest financial mistakes. And again, the reason I'm sharing this is to say that anyone can learn to be better with money. That was my own personal journey as I started out from knowing nothing to teaching myself everything I need and want to know. So, and it's an ongoing process, right? This self-educating and getting better about personal finance. So I will leave timestamps down below of my biggest mistakes. I have 4. I am sure that there are more that I'm kind of overlooking in the moment, but I'll kind of give you an idea of where I'm going with this. And this will, full disclosure, this is very kind of improvisational, but again, I'll try to leave those timestamps down below. Okay, so here we go with mistake number 1, and that is at the age of 17, when I had my very first checking account in college. I overdrafted within like 3 hours. So let me explain. I was off to college. I went to college at 16. And because my birthday's in October, I had almost no financial knowledge. I did not grow up in a financially literate household at all. So this is the advantage that I did have. I have a very functional and loving and caring and supportive mom. That's my biggest advantage. My parents split when I was 13. My dad was always supportive, so he continued to pay the mortgage on our house. My mom stayed in the house. So that was another big advantage that I had. Aside from that, I had nothing. No education, no finance talk around the dinner table, no real estate kind of education at all, no family doing real estate. So none of that. I had no other advantages other than those 2. So when I went to college, I had no clue what I was doing. And I'm sure my mom did what she knew how to do and how to pass on, right? She showed me, I'm sure, how to balance a checkbook. But here's what happened. So I got dropped off at college, and I opened a checking account because I'd worked over the summer, and I deposited money, and I was going to go buy books. And back in those days, we wrote a check for the books that I bought. So I bought my textbooks, and then I went to go check with a check. And I went to go check my balance at the ATM on campus. And I saw, oh my goodness, I still had all this money left over. So I went out and I spent that money. I think I probably went to the mall and I got like dinner or something. And then I looked the next day and I was in the negative. I was like, what happened? And the thing is, it took time for that check that I had written for my books to clear. So when I checked my account, the money that I had in my account did not reflect the fact that I'd written a check for my textbooks, and it would take time for that check to clear and that money to leave my account. So that was mistake number 1, is I just got the timing wrong, because I had never had, it's just experience. I didn't know. I had no idea, because I'd never had that type of checking account before, and I didn't know that it would take time. So things like that, I mean, I wouldn't even say it was ignorance, because how could I have known? And it wasn't even something that I think my mom could have prepared me for, because how do you say, oh, be sure you wait 2 to 3 days for that check to clear? Because I never had to write a check for anything before. It was the very first check that I wrote. It was check number 101 in my register. So after that happened and I saw the negative balance, I felt like the biggest failure in the world. I was really hard on myself. And of course you have the additional overdraft fee on your account. So that was very disappointing because again, I'm sure someone showed me how to balance a checkbook, but nobody said, oh, be sure to wait that time for your check to clear. But I think that if I had the chance to go back and tell myself, I think what I would have said is, And now that I have a daughter, I'm thinking, how am I going to teach her? I would say things like this happen. Number one, you can always call the bank and say, hey, this was a mistake. Can you please remove that $50 overdraft fee? Number two, it's a mistake. It happens, learn from it and move on. That's it. So that was the very first financial mistake at the age of 17 that I made. And to this day, I still remember that. So mistake number two, and this is one that I talk about a lot, is that I went into credit card debt at the age of 25. I found myself in $17,000 in consumer loan debt. I had a car loan for about $7,000, and then I had about $10,000 on a credit card. And the thing is, I was making no money at the time because I had left a job 6 months earlier, and I didn't really have a plan for where I was going to go next. And I could make a whole other video on, that's how I got into credit card debt, is I had no consistent income. I was working side hustles here and there, but I had no consistent income, and I still had expenses. I had that car loan, I had day-to-day living expenses, and I didn't make a plan to say, okay, this is what I have coming in. I can spend no more than what I have coming in. And to this day, that is a challenge for me. I can spend no more than what I have coming in. That is still the way that I run my financial, what I'm doing right now, my finances right now. And that's a lesson that I think I will continue to relearn. And I know many people struggle with. Don't spend more than you have coming in. So that was mistake number two, again, at the age of 25. And I could do a whole nother video on ill-advised things that I did that went against conventional wisdom, but ended up working out okay. And I think that would be an important video too, because sometimes conventional wisdom is not always, it's conventional for a reason and it's wisdom for a reason, but it doesn't always apply to your situation. So ill-advised things that I did that ended up working out fine. Spoiler alert, leaving that job without a plan was absolutely fine. And it ended up being what I needed to do at the time. Again, now that I'm a parent, and I can totally understand why people say, don't leave a job unless you have another job. But at that time, I didn't know. I didn't know what was coming next. And again, from a matter of faith, I just needed to make that leap. I wouldn't have known until I took that step of stepping out into nothing, which again, as a parent, is terrifying to see your child do. As the child who did it, you just have to do it and learn from that. So mistake number two is getting into credit card debt by not paying attention. And this is sort of overall, the biggest mistake that I made was not paying attention to my finances. And I can say that from that point when I was 25, that was the rock bottom. And from that point to this point, God willing, I have never gone back to that place of not paying attention. So I might know exactly what's happening. I might be in a place that I don't love, but I know exactly why I'm there. And I think especially through transitions, being very intentional about where you want to end up, transitions good or bad, being intentional about where you want to end up through this transition and how you're going to navigate, how you plan to navigate this transition is so key, especially when facing things you don't want to face or situations you'd rather not be in. So that was mistake number, that was my biggest mistake, is not paying attention. This is mistake number three, is kind of overall and one that still continues, is that I did not pay attention and wasn't taking my salary seriously. And this sort of started from my working career when I started work. I mean, I've been working since I was 12 and I used to babysit neighborhood kids. I got my first real job at 15. And I was waiting tables. Officially my first job was at the movie theater. I hated it because it was an hourly wage and I was like, forget this, let me hustle. So I couldn't wait till I turned 15 and start working at a restaurant. And I adored that because I loved interacting with people and receiving abundance as a result. So, and I did well at the restaurant. I used to work at a Friendly's. So as I entered into my working career, I started my first job at the age of 22 or 23. And the salary was very, very low. And because they viewed it almost as an internship, and it really was, that I learned so much in that. I was editorial assistant for Prentice Hall, now Pearson Education. And I really enjoyed it. And I learned so much. I was there for 2.5 years, and it was such a valuable education. At the time, I did not take my salary as seriously as I knew I should have. I always hustled. I never just worked one job. I always had a second job. I used to work at the YMCA after that, after my my work hours ended. So I've never just had one job, but I don't think I thought then to take my salary I didn't take my salary seriously then. Then I left to work to teach overseas, and that wasn't a salary that I could really negotiate. And then as I came back at the age of 28, I still was not focused seriously on my salary. I always wanted to make more because I always knew that I was being underpaid, but I never sat down and said, okay, how can I increase the value of my skills in the marketplace in order to make more? So that overall was I would say was a fourth biggest mistake, third biggest mistake under the aspect of not taking my money seriously, but not being very serious and intentional about increasing my salary and being paid what I was worth. So that's mistake number 3, officially. And the last mistake was just this most recent mistake with the Department of Labor and the money for my maternity leave being incorrectly calculated, which again was entirely on me. And I would not say was a result of not paying attention at all, because I was on it. I was actively looking into it. I don't want to say that it was because the process was so convoluted and complicated, which it was, because I've heard people, in fact, my HR department said some people who live in New Jersey just gave up the whole process because it was so complex. And didn't claim the unemployment income. I'm like, claim it. Those people who don't need that income, like, wow. I didn't have the option of quitting. But that miscalculation was a learning experience for me in saying, hey, I wish I had pushed back on my HR department and said, hey, I think I can take additional time. You're giving me this return to work date, but I think in New Jersey, I'm allowed 4 months instead of just 3. So I could have done that. At that time, however, I was ready to come back. And if I'm honest, if someone had said to me, okay, here's the money you'll get, but you'll have to pay it back, I still think at 0 interest, I still think I would have made the choice. So while it's unfortunate and it's a kick in the butt, and it's a kick in the teeth, and it's not something I would have wanted to have happen, I understand that this is how things went, and I don't think there's anything I would have pushed back on HR is the only thing, but this is the way things ended up. And that's the way they are. I not that I'm unhappy with the outcome, but I'm trading an interest rate on my credit cards, because I use that money to pay off part of my credit card debt. If at 28% interest for 0% interest, I'm like, I still think I would have done that deal. So regardless, it's still a mistake, and it's one that I wish hadn't happened. But now that the dust has settled, I am not unhappy with the way it turned out. So that's what I got for you. So those are my 4 mistakes, what I've learned from them, and sort of the overarching lesson that I've learned is to pay attention and be intentional, and to know, okay, this is what I wanted to have happen. This is what is happening. This is where I want to end up. So I tried this. This is what I expected. Didn't work out that way. Okay, let's move on. Let's learn from this and move on. So that is my biggest takeaway, is to pay attention. And that's the biggest thing that I am passing on to my daughter as we grow in this financial journey together, because we're all growing. And the one thing I hope she grows up with is a sense of, hey, mistakes aren't the end of the world. Learn from your mistakes. Don't be afraid of mistakes, and keep moving forward. That's the biggest thing. And I think a sense of love and acceptance and forgiveness is what I want to pass on. And a sense of, again, acceptance and not shame or fear or hiding. Because when I think about money, I feel proud. I feel proud of what I've accomplished with my money, with what I have, and I feel excited in what I will accomplish moving forward. And I think that's the most important thing to pass on, is this feeling of pride and joy and thankfulness, gratitude, acceptance, and abundance when it comes to money. That's what I feel now when I think of money, and anticipation. Again, gratitude, because I think it's the feeling of money that gets passed down, and the energy of money. I know that's what gets passed down, and I want to pass that on. Number one is that feeling to everyone, to everyone that I work with, that I encounter, that feeling of acceptance and anticipation and joy around money, as opposed to shame and fear regarding money. So that is what I have for you. Those are my mistakes, and those are what I've learned from them. Let me know the mistakes that you've made. And I want you to know that it's okay to make mistakes and to not be afraid of mistakes, to accept them, to learn from them, and to move on. So thank you so much for watching. As always, I hope you'll keep watching. Bye.